So I'm really excited to talk to you in this video today about Google Web Stories and how you can create them on your own website. You can use them to repurpose your most popular blog content, and they're a great way to engage with your audience using that popular story format that we see on social media and TikTok. So first of all, this is for WordPress blogs. Google developers have a plugin specifically for creating WordPress stories. So I'm in the WordPress dashboard of my website, and here on the left-hand side, after I installed the plugin, it shows up here and it's just labeled stories. So you have two options here when you get started. You can click on Explore Templates and kind of work around and use one of their templates and make it match your brand with your colors and your fonts, or you can start from scratch by clicking on My Stories. So I just want to show you the difference between the two. I started a draft here to go over in this tutorial today, and from there you would click on Create New Story, and that would pop up a blank canvas for you. And then again, if you want to start with one of the templates provided by Google, they don't have a huge database at the moment, but these can help you if you're trying to save time or you're just not sure where to get started. A lot of these are super helpful because they're created for different content creators. You can see there's some here for food bloggers and fashion bloggers, lifestyle bloggers, short news blurbs. So it's kind of cool that they have some basic templates here to help you get started. So I'm going to go ahead and open the story that I started in the editor. I actually started with one of the basic templates and recreated it to work for my brand. So if you're familiar with Photoshop or Canva, there's a lot of similarities here with how this is set up. So here on this right hand side, we've got the different layers, and as I click on each layer, certain things populate that we can change how they look and how they're presented on the actual story. And then here on the left hand side, this shows all of the files I have uploaded in my media library, but you can also select third-party media. It looks like they have some sort of working relationship with Unsplash, which is a free stock photo website. And you can also select some video files and some GIF files to add to your stories to make them really fun and interactive. And then we also have a text block, a limited number of shapes to choose from, and then once you add one to your story, you can change the color to match your brand. You can choose how transparent it is, you can change the color. And then here you can also explore specific page templates. So maybe, you want to change your cover photo, you want to add a quote page somewhere in your story. So again, they kind of help you out with giving you some templates to help you get started. So over here, one of the things I really like about this plugin is when you're first getting started, they have this little tutorial here to help you explore, and then they have a checklist here. I've almost taken care of all of this already, but when you're first getting started, it will tell you, hey, you're missing a cover photo, you're missing a logo. Right now I still need to fill out my description. So it's just really nice to have this checklist here to let you know here's what you need to fix before you publish your story. So the first thing I do when I'm getting started is creating a name for my story. If you're repurposing a blog post and you're using a story to kind of give a preview of that blog post, make sure that the title isn't exactly the same. So say you're sharing a chocolate chip recipe. If chocolate chip cookie recipe is the title of your blog post, you might want to consider making the web story the best chocolate chip cookie recipe ever as the title. So they're not exactly the same, but they're still similar. That way you don't have title duplicates on your website, because that can be a red flag for Google as it scans your content on your website. So then after that, I start working on creating the slides, and here I created different layouts, and as I'm building up the content here, what's really cool is I'm working on listing 10 mistakes that Pinterest content creators make. So I have a slide layout for the mistake and then the solution. So what I'm going to do is click on this duplicate page, and it makes a copy of that page, and then I can go in here and put in mistake number 2, and it's simply a matter of changing the text. Kind of like a plug and play. This is what helps save you time, so you don't have to add in the same pictures over and over again and change the font over and over again, change the colors over and over again. So this is just a really simple way to make this process quick and easy. So as I build out the story, that's kind of what that process looks like. So this is my cover slide, in a way, the first slide that people will see. I will probably reuse this or maybe tweak it ever so slightly on other stories that I create. And then I have a couple different layouts that I'm using for different purposes. And then here I have my final one. I'm gonna brand this a little bit more. I'd like to add my website and my logo. But just to go back over some of these options, so here you can add in a text button right here in this top left corner, and when you do that, it populates here. And keep in mind they have a generic text and color that they set up, so when you do it this way you have to change it to match your brand. But as you build up each slide, like I said, you can duplicate the whole page and kind of edit it that way. And then here I recommend, if you want to delete something, just tap it down here, because I've made the mistake where if my mouse is clicked on this entire page, I think it will basically delete the whole thing when I think I'm just deleting a text. Luckily, if you just click Command Z, you can undo something like that. So just keep that in mind when you're editing. I made that mistake quite a bit when I was getting started with web stories. And again, I mentioned Photoshop earlier, this layer section. You can drag and drop and move items around. So you see how that changed the way that the text looks? It's because now I move the text here, it's underneath this rectangular shaped block, but I can drag and drop it to make sure it's the top layer. And then I wanted to show you how this page background looks too. When you create a canvas from scratch, that will be empty. So I'm gonna act like I just added this picture. So there's a couple ways you can see that it's trying to populate and fill up the background as I drag and drop it. It's moving depending on where I drag it. It thinks I want it to go in this rectangular block or fill in the background. So when you add an image to your slide, you have a couple options. Over here where it says size and position, I expanded on that. There's an option here to set it as the background. And then if you want to, you can add a page attachment here for your website. So I'm just going to do this as an example right now. And when you do that, it populates a call to action here. You can change this to say, click here to learn more, download the recipe, check this out. And I'll show you what this looks like in the preview mode. It's just kind of like that swipe up feature that's common on Instagram stories. It's just a little button that shows up here at the bottom of the slide in your web story. So make sure you're saving your draft as you're working. I want to say that it automatically saves as you work, but you know what happens with your internet access. It looks like it's trying to save it right now. So while it does that, I will talk about a few other things. So here's your design tab here, your document here. This is where you fill out the publisher logo. I actually took, you don't want the publisher logo to really have text in it, so I just chose one of my logo vector elements, and I made a perfect square, and I made it 96 by 96 pixels, and then I uploaded it into WordPress and populated it there. And then your poster image, that's what people will see on the Google Discover app. When your web story populates in the carousel section of the stories on their app, that's the first photo that people see before they decide to click on your web story. So for best practices, don't have text on that. It should be one solid static image, and make it enticing, make people want to click through on your website. So I actually make this on Canva, and I'm going to pull that up right now. I just labeled it cover photo under my designs, and the dimensions are 640 by 853 pixels. That's actually what the plugin recommended. If you try to upload something any other size, it will likely give you an error message under that checklist that I mentioned earlier, and I think it'll also try to get you to crop the image. So just doing it this way in Canva is the best way to make sure that I'm making a fully optimized image. I have control over what's seen in the cover photo. So simply here, I already picked this one because that web story is going to talk about Pinterest. I'm going to duplicate the page here. So now I have a second page. This is if I'm going to come back and create a new story and need a new cover photo. So I'm going to delete that. My frame is still there. And from one of my purchased stock images, I'm going to drag and drop it and populate it here. And then I can kind of, like I said, I have control over what's seen in the cover image if I do it this way inside of Canva. So there's a couple different images just to play around. When the cover photo is shown on the Google Discover app, your publisher logo will show up here in the top corner, and it's just a small little circle, and then your title will show up here. So I think you want the title to be between 50 and 60 characters, so it's not cut off and it's not taking up too much space here. So use that space in your title wisely to get people interested in clicking to learn more. but also not using too much space to take away from that picture that's also there, and getting the title cut off. Again, the checklist in the plugin will probably let you know that your title is too long, so no worries there. Okay, so is there anything else to go over? So here on your page attachment at the bottom, you can choose a manual timeline for each of your slides if you feel like that's necessary, or it's set up to auto. I think you can change this. So mine's set for 7 seconds, and keep in mind that's 7 seconds per slide. So if you got 10 slides, 10 seconds a piece, just keep in mind that you are presenting this to a large audience. You want it to be quick and simple, but keep people entertained, keep them clicking through all your slides. Don't have too much text, don't have too long of a video on each slide. Basically, I'm trying to say is keep the user experience in mind. People like to skim, they like to kind of tap, swipe right, if you will, through all of your content and they want to see what the takeaway is as quickly as possible. So keep that in mind. When you set your duration for each slide, don't make it too short that they don't have time to read it, but don't make it too long that the person gets annoyed and decides to click out because they can't move ahead to the next slide. Okay, so I'm just pretending that this is ready to be published. So what we're going to do next is show you the final steps here are to make the story visible to the public, and then you set your publish time, the author. We have our cover photo filled in as well as the logo, and you type in your description here. It looks like it allows you to have up to 200 characters, and I would definitely use your keywords wisely here. You don't have a lot of space, so try to fit 1 to 2 keywords in here that are relevant to the content and relevant to the blog post that you're promoting in this web story. So now we're ready to go into preview mode. This plugin has been updated recently, and it allows you to see what the story looks like in different types of devices. So keep in mind that there's a lot of mobile devices out there that people are going to use to look at these stories. So I think it's a good idea to see how the layout looks on each one. I try to be accommodating for smaller screens, wider screens. Obviously, most people are probably using an Android or an iPhone, so you can add whatever you're using. I think it looks like it allows you up to 3 different types of devices. So I would check your Google Analytics to see what people are using to access your website. I think in this day and age, most people are getting website traffic through some sort of smartphone, and the most common ones are the iPhone, some type of Android. I'm going to go ahead and add the iPad here just to see what the wider screen looks like. So here we can work through it, each slide, and make sure that none of the text is being cut off. Like you can see there's a little bit of space here, but not on these two. So I would probably want to go back to that slide and maybe make this text block more central. So that's real easy to do. I'm on the last slide here. I'm clicking on design. All of your alignment options are here. So I'm going to go ahead and align center and middle. So that was pretty simple to do. I'm going to do it on this one as well. And I'm going to click update. It looks like I accidentally published it. So I'm going to go back to draft. Because I'm not ready for that to go out on the web just yet. Okay, so I click save draft. Make sure everything's saved. It's making me wait to see the preview again. So yeah, this is a very important step before you publish. Check to see how this looks. Oh no, it removed my iPad. So here we can see that it looks much better with everything front and center. And I think you can also make sure your links are working under all of these page attachments. And then once you hit publish, you can open the story and see it live on the web. And I'm gonna share a link in the description box so you can make sure that your web story is AMP qualified and it's going to be crawled by Google. So this is pretty much everything that goes into creating a web story on WordPress using this Stories plugin. So again, it's here on the side, left-hand side, and with all of this, you should be ready to start publishing your stories.